Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something really cool to check out because for the very first time in my channel's history, as well as just generally for my collection, I've got my hands on one of the Haolonggood statues. This is the 1/20th scale Daspletosaurus, and I've really been kind of eyeing these up for quite some time. Really wanted to get one or two in my collection and check them out to see how nice the statues are in comparison to the actual figures themselves. And you know, I'm really excited to pop this box open. You can see the front of the box basically just shows off the Haolonggood logo, the species name, and the scale. There really isn't much of anything else going on with it, honestly. That's really about it. You can see there's like a blue center when you pull the pieces off. There's nothing else on the back. So rather than wasting any more time with the box, let's go ahead, get this box out of here, open it up, and bring in our Daspletosaurus. So here is the base for the model, and straight away this is looking very promising. Now, of course, the bases for Haolonggood have always been really nicely done, so I don't think that's a fair way to judge the figure itself that we're about to take a look at, but the base does look really quite nice. But then here, let's move the base out of the way actually, is our Daspletosaurus, and I will say the Daspletosaurus does definitely look really nice. It's absolutely gorgeous when it comes to the sculpt, and the paint apps are really nicely done. And again, I definitely am not surprised by that. Of course, it's Haolonggood. Their paint apps are great even on their smaller standard figures, but the version that we have here in 1/20th scale is also really nicely done. Though there is one problem that I have with it, which we'll mention here in just a minute. But let's go ahead and slide this peg here into the spot on the base. So there we go. We have our Daspletosaurus now standing. Let's go ahead and readjust the camera just a little bit. We've got it standing here, and it looks really, really beautiful. Like, talk about an impressive display here with a very nice looking Daspletosaurus. But one thing that is a problem for me straight out of the packaging for this guy is the tail's broken. As you can see, well, maybe you can't see because the camera's not going to focus on it for some reason, but the tip of the tail has broken off here, and I actually tried my hardest to find it in the box, and it is just non-existent. I don't know how. The box was really nicely packaged, and the dinosaur, by all means, should not have broken. And I've had many of resin models in the past, and I've never really had too many issues with them, and this was packaged really nicely, so I don't think that this is any fault of Haolonggood's. My guess is maybe because it was in transit for so long, Postal Service just doesn't care. Sometimes they throw stuff around. I don't know if that's what happened. I have no idea, but the fact that the piece is missing entirely is quite baffling to me. So at some point, I guess I'm going to have to sculpt out something or just apply some sort of a small little tail section right there just to complete it. Luckily, the end of the tail that is the missing piece is a black, so it wouldn't be too hard to just kind of paint that right in, and then it wouldn't really be noticeable anymore. But straight out of the gate, that's definitely a little bit of a bummer for my first of these statues to have adding and entering into my collection. Acquiring one broken is definitely not a good thing. But you can see outside of the broken piece, this is an absolutely gorgeous version of a Daspletosaurus with a really nice action pose. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look, and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Daspletosaurus, you can see it looks absolutely gorgeous when it comes to the sculpt, as well, honestly, as the paintwork. The paintwork is really, really nicely done. If you get nice and close, you can see how really vibrant the scale detail is. You have finer scaling up here, larger scaling kind of running along the jawline here. You've got the nostrils sculpted out. You can see as we move back here, you can see the eyes sculpted out very nicely, painted with a yellow and a black pupil. Also has a nice gloss coat. I like that they've added a little bit of darker variation of color there as you lead back into the eye socket area. There's a good bit of paintwork here to the face. They definitely did a very good job of applying all of the paintwork here to the figure. You've got tons of variation of color, really tiny subtle variations of color. You got like a light gray here, you have like a tan here, a nice orange tone running up here. You've got blacks up here on the top of the snout. You've got some nice variations of browns there highlighting the nose. And again, just lots and lots and lots of variation of color added to this. They've also applied some nice dry brushing techniques to really make the scale detail pop. can really see it back here. Again, the really nice dry brushing that they've used. Same deal for the lower jaw. As you move down, you've got more variation of color, more of that lighter grayish tone kind of leading along here. Different variations of color kind of moving along the jawline. You can also see that there is a dark wash present on the figure, which helps to highlight the detail even further. So very nicely done when it comes to Haolonggood. Their paintwork, I think, is always exceptional. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of patterning right here, but I don't think it looks bad. It's just kind of almost looks a little out of place, but it doesn't look bad at the same time. I don't know. It's just not my favorite part of the model, but it still looks kind of cool, I guess. But obviously we have the mouth here in an open position for the dinosaur, and when you look at it from the front, it does have the look and appearance of genuinely looking straight forward, which is a massive plus, because when it comes to, Tyrannosaurs, one thing that I've honestly struggled with is whenever I get a really nice one like this, and I have to have it looking forward like this, I always misplace the pupils so they don't look perfect. It's hard to really get the pupils placed correctly where it looks good when it's looking straight forward, and Haolonggood definitely achieved that with this Daspletosaurus. But you can see again the mouth is open. You've got the teeth sculpted out in here on the inside of the mouth. They're painted very nicely. They have a little variation of colors. It looks like they've got like a brownish wash and a really nice white tone or an off-white. Very nice gloss coat as well added to the figure, and I love that they have really little things like that tooth there is kind of chipped, and that's not like a damage or anything, that's how it actually is. So really nice doses of realism for the model. You can see the teeth on the lower jaw, all very nicely sculpted, very nicely painted. They very clearly took a lot of care in painting this one out. As you move along the inside of the mouth on the underside, you can see a very nice amount of paintwork with some pinkish tones and reddish washes and stuff. We've got the tongue sculpted out in here as well, very nicely textured. You can see more reddish washes as we move back here into the inside of the mouth. Absolutely awesome gloss coat that's used in here to add a massive amount of realism with that saliva-like look. You can even see more reddish washes as you move back here into the throat. So the inside of the mouth is really nicely done. You can see the same thing here for the skin stretching with the mouth open. It all looks really good. Definitely has that genuine wet look you would expect to see. As you move up here into the top of the head of the dinosaur, leading back into the neck, you see some small ridges picking up. You can also see some lines of osteoderm moving down through the course of the neck. You've got some creasing right here back behind the head because the dinosaur does have its head turned pretty nicely toward its left. You can see more creasing moving down through the course of the neck. We've got a striping effect leading down following those lines of osteoderms. It kind of follows the osteoderms leading down, but then the striping disappears as we lead down into the body. We have a bit of a darker tone following along the spinal column up here as well. As you move down into the body is definitely big and beefy and feels very impressive for sure, and you have lots of really nice paintwork. Again, when you get nice and close and you just kind of take it all in, there is just so much paintwork here on this that it's almost hard to exactly point out all of the slight variations of color that Haolonggood has added to it, showing you that when you get one of these statues from them, it's going to be really nicely painted, and you can definitely see that as you move through. There is just tons of variation of color, nice washes, dry brushing techniques. They've applied a lot of paint to this to give it the realistic look that they were looking for, and you can see moving down into the lower part of the stomach, again, we've got lots of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff as we lead up here toward the arms leading down. You can see the arms look really nice, definitely muscular. You can see the elbow on the back of the arm right there. Again, more variation of color that looks really good leading down into the arm. You've got areas of dry brushing there as well, bringing the detail out quite nicely. You've got some scoots moving down the fingers, and then you lead down and you can see the nails are painted honestly with like a very interesting tone there. You can kind of see it there. It's like a yellowish brown almost tone, or a greenish brown that they've used. And again, really nicely applied a gloss coat to the nails as well to make them shine. But as you continue to move along, you have, these like dark orangish tones to the body of the Daspletosaurus. But as you lead back here, the dinosaur starts to change as far as the colors go. So at this point, we kind of start to transition to a black, it seems, or a very dark brown maybe for the most part when it comes to the body. We still have more of those ridges and osteoderms and stuff following along through the course of the body. You have a few more osteoderms moving down here into the thigh, just kind of scattered. We also pick up this almost like a peach sort of tone that spots down through the course of the thigh, leading down through the leg. And again, the skin detail is really impressive leading down. You can see all sorts of creasing and everything moving along the back of the leg. Nice muscle definition. Again, big bulging calf muscle. Lots of variation of color. Yet again, I can even see greenish tones picking up here as you move down through the course of the leg. You've got the kneecap right here in the front of the leg, and then you lead down into the foot sculpt. Again, nice scoots moving down the foot, down into the toes. We've got some nice bends in the toes as the dinosaur is taking a step kind of down a little bit of a hill, and we've got the nails again sculpted out, painted really nicely with the same tone we saw on the nails on the hands. And again, nice gloss coat has been added to it. We do, of course, have dew claws as well. They are painted. Man, this thing looks really, really nice. As we move back up, you've got all sorts of skin detail leading off of the back of the thigh, leading into the tail. Again, because of the movement of the dinosaur, it is shown really nicely here in the sculpt. Moving back, we still have more of that kind of like peach sort of tone that patterns out here through the rest of the tail. And you can see, again, the greenish tone leading down here. There's a little bit of a dry brushing technique that's been added to highlight the scales in that area. The green starts to taper away, and then we're left with just the darker tone and that light tone kind of patterning out as you lead toward the tip of the tail, again with the really nice, well, I lost focus, really nice curve in the tail leading out. If you lead along the underside, they've applied some really cool like pinkish tones here for the underside, which I think is a really nice realistic touch. A lighter tone following along the center of the underside of the tail. We do have a cloaca present as we move back. Very reptilian style scaling, very almost snake-like scaling here for the underside of our Daspletosaurus. And as you move along the underside of the belly, you can even see like little slight hints of greenish tones that have been added, more of the pinks and a little bit more greens right here. They've definitely applied a whole lot of paintwork to this figure, but the sculpting and detailing looks incredible down there. As you lead over here to the opposing side of the head, again, you can see it looks really nice. We've got that very cool action pose with the mouth wide open. We lead back here into the neck. Again, you can see more creasing and wrinkling, more skin detail back here in the neck of the dinosaur. Very nice striping effect, again, leading down. And then we lead into the body, and you can see the arm is pretty close to being held in the same position, maybe a little bit further outstretched over here, but close to looking the same type of detail you're going to see, of course, moving up. And again, the absolutely gorgeous paintwork on this model. As you lead back here closer to the thigh, you can see how the skin is all bunched up because the dinosaur's taking a step forward. And again, we start to transition from the orangish brown tones to the darker tones of the body leading back. We start to also pick up that, spotting effect with the kind of light peach sort of tone. And then as you lead down into the foot sculpt, you can see how this foot is lifting up off of the ground again as the dinosaur's taking a step. You have really nice looking scale detail and everything down there in that foot. And then we again lead out here into the tail. As you lead out, you have this patterning the entire way out, just like we saw on the initial side. So that is far and away probably the best Daspletosaurus that I have. And then we also have the base, and you can see the base is basically a nice rocky area. Like, it looks like it's coming off of like a mountain or something as it leads down. So it's basically just a whole bunch of very large rocks that the dinosaur is walking down off of. And I will say that the sculpt and paintwork of this is fantastic. You can see they did an excellent job of adding in so much variation of color, really nice subtle variations of color to give this an exceptionally realistic look. It looks super realistic, honestly, like they just took a chunk of the earth basically and brought it here and then applied a little peg hole for our dinosaur to stand in. It looks super realistic and very nicely done. And then the underside here, as you can see, has some stuff on it. But you can also see the Haolonggood logo. You can see that this is, I guess, the third in the series of statues, which I haven't acquired any earlier than this. And you can see again that this was number 43 in 199. So a very small limited edition number. If you are planning on getting one of these, clearly I would advise grabbing it very soon. But absolutely an incredible diorama for sure.
As far as the size goes on our Daspletosaurus, lengthwise from the snout
out to the tail, again with the amount of tail I have, we're looking at about 17¼ inches or about 44 centimeters, maybe a little bit under. Now, of course, I don't know exactly how much longer it would be if I had the full tail length, but I don't really have much missing. Like, it's just the tiniest little tip, so that would probably be pretty much the measurement you would expect. Height-wise, to the top of the tail, a little under, like a hair under 8 inches or about 20 centimeters. And then to the top of the head here, or actually I should say the top of the neck, approaching 7¾ inches, but not quite there, or around the 19½ centimeter mark. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon in the Collect A Human Being next to our Haolonggood 1/20th scale Daspletosaurus, and you can see that the Daspletosaurus is definitely very nicely sized, and at 1/20th scale, again, that's exactly what you would expect. You would definitely expect a very nicely sized version of this dinosaur. But for another comparison, we have the mainline version of the Daspletosaurus next to the statue version, and I definitely will say I do prefer the statue version. I think it's just a little bit nicer than the mainline version. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but they are really both honestly beautiful versions of this dinosaur. But I think I like the colors a little bit more. I also love the really dramatic pose and everything that we have for the statue version. But if you do happen to have the mainline version, this definitely should help to give you an idea of the size next to this 1/20th scale version. And then in what is probably the best size comparison that I could probably give you, we have the Beasts of the Mesozoic version of the Daspletosaurus next to the Haolonggood version. So if you do have the Beasts of the Mesozoic version, you can very clearly see it's a little bit bigger than the Haolonggood version, which makes sense since the Haolonggood is 1/20th scale. The Beasts of the Mesozoic version is 1/18th scale, so it would be a little bit bigger than our Haolonggood version. I don't have too many other Tyrannosaurs that, would size nicely with this or compare nicely with this. I don't really have too many, especially in the 1/20th size range, so hopefully these comparisons have given you at least a pretty good idea of the size of this model, and definitely helps to show you that it's clearly a lot larger than your standard Haolonggood release. So this Haolonggood 1/20th scale Daspletosaurus model is really, really nice, honestly. I would say I may be more so hooked on these new statues over the actual mainline releases, even though the mainline releases are awesome, and we clearly get way more of the mainline releases than we do for these statues. These statues are so nice. I love the really cool pose that we have with this one, the nice action pose with the Daspletosaurus kind of running down what seems to almost be like coming off of a mountain or something, like a very nice rocky area that it's kind of running down. It very much so looks like it's got something in its eyesight, like it's got something that it's going for, probably some sort of a kill, which I also really like. That also kind of opens up some possibilities as far as what model you can display with this. If you happen to have, anything in the similar size range that may have lived at the same time in the same area as this dinosaur, you could definitely display them together, because this is pretty much just like an open book as far as what you can do with diorama possibilities. Like, it's perfectly posed that it's coming down for a bite on something. But again, I just love the dramatic pose that we have going on here. On top of that, I love the sculpt and fine detail. It is extremely highly detailed. Again, Haolonggood has some of the best sculpts, I think, on the market when it comes to like fine detail. They have really nice scale detail, skin folds, skin wrinkles, muscle definition, everything you would want to see. It's very much so beautifully portrayed on this model. On top of that, you have a gorgeous paint application, which I kind of feel like the paint apps of this differ a bit from what the original prototype had going on. Like, somewhere along the way, if I remember correctly, I feel like the colors changed on this, and I would say probably for the better. Like, I'm actually a pretty darn big fan of the color scheme that they've chosen to go with on this Daspletosaurus, and I think it looks extremely naturalistic as a whole. Definitely the type of coloration I could see on this dinosaur. And again, there's just tons of paintwork. There is zero laziness when it comes to the actual paint apps of these, and they're very lifelike and realistic overall when it comes to their paint applications. If you go back, if you are a fan of like the Dinosaurius Sideshow line, and you take a look at their models, they were pretty nicely painted for their time, but they weren't quite as realistic and lifelike as what you see here with Haolonggood. You could tell they are a dinosaur company and very clearly can create some of the best dinosaurs on the market. So if you are interested in this, as I said earlier, this is a limited edition of only 199, so it's not very many. As again, I had said, if you are interested, make sure you grab one as soon as possible so you do not miss out on this gorgeous, gorgeous model. I will include a link in the description to where you can do that from Lana Time Shop, so make sure you check that link. Go grab this awesome model before it's gone, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.